Antoine is going to be crowned your WOR Season 10 champion.
And history's been made. Ballina, the first WOR PS4 champion. What a championship! What a season! Absolutely phenomenal.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to WOR Round 6 in Season 11. We are at Silverstone for one of the most, well, iconic circuits on the circuit, and it is just, it's an amazing one. I love Silverstone. It's caused some upsets in the past, but I am really looking to see how these guys handle it. Shadow, can he bounce back? Only time will tell. I am joined once again by Antiv Beacon. Beacon, welcome. Obviously missed out last week on what was an incredible Austrian Grand Prix, but I hope you're looking forward to this one.
I did go along and watch a race, and I've got to say it was a brilliant race at that. And you know, we've had it so far this season, every single race, but they have all been absolutely brilliant. And you know what, at a track like Silverstone, I think we expect nothing less than brilliance tonight. Shadow really does have a fight on his hands now, because he knows he has to beat Ronha to keep himself in a realistic contention, or a Ronha retirement, which would really close things up again. But Shadow is definitely under the lights today, and yeah, this could be quite fun.
Now, we've got 26 laps here of this 3.6 mile circuit, 18 corners, 8 of those to the left and 10 to the right. Now, there is some, I've already mentioned how iconic this circuit is. But you've got, I mean, we spoke briefly before I turned all the sounds on for our voices, but, you know, you've got the Wellington Straight, you've got Luffield, Woodcut, Maggots, Beckett's, Hanger Straight, Stowe, you name it. We don't need a track map because it's so well known for the likes of you and I.
Yeah, absolutely. It is for anyone who's even moderately interested in motorsports. It is a massive track. And you know what? It's one of the more fun ones to go at on the game as well, because it does invite some really good racing. And like I've said a minute ago, you know, we don't expect anything less than it. We've got such a closely matched grid. They've shown so many times this season they are not scared to race and even maybe pick up some damage doing it. And that really could throw a spanner in the works for some drivers today. But for the most part, it is all incredibly clean, incredibly close, and also, above all else, incredibly competitive too. And that is always the right ingredients that you need for a good race. And when you chuck in a great track as well, what do you get?
Well, you get WOR. But let's get a bit of the niceties out the way. Mercedes have Matthew Rees and Logic racing for them. Red Bull, Ronha, the championship leader, with Keedon alongside him. McLaren have Bartak, who won last week in incredible fashion and agonised his teammate. Aston Martin has got Jonas and Nico with Alpine, Alfie and Dark Killer. Ferrari, we've got Luca and Critch with AlphaTauri with Tribion and Square. Alfa Romeo sees such a strong lineup in Shadow and Sparks. We're yet to see, I think, those two at their best at the same time. And when we do, I think, Sparks are going to fly. In the Haas, we've got Plakey and Wilson, with the Williams drivers being Raceway and Connor. I mean, so really some cracking names out here. And I mean, so far, we're nearly halfway of the season. But who's your standout team so far?
Oh, that is a really, really good question. I'd say that's quite different. I'd say probably the Alfa Romeo team. It's just two incredibly rapid drivers. And yeah, so far they've been doing a really great job, especially in quali. Sometimes in a race it goes wrong for one or two of them, but yeah, I'd say so far Alpha very strong and competing incredibly well so far.
Now, in the chat, I want to know what you are thinking qualifying wise. We could really do with who you think is going to claim pole at Silverstone. But before we get down to it, I'm just going to quickly mention that, you know, as much as I've liked those Alpha pairings, I don't think we've seen the best of them yet. So I'm going to give mine to the Williams team. Some great racing by Raceway and Connor, especially at the beginning of the season from Connor. But we've still got yet to see the best of some of these drivers out here. So I'm really looking forward to how it all is going to pan out. Lobby's just about to get ready. We're just about to get to qualifying. There's a lot of Luca fans in the chat. Keep it coming. Well, that's exactly what we want. But last time out at Silverstone, I believe it was CRG Loot. Yeah, it's changed for me. It's CRG Loot that took the victory with VRT Ballina as well. Some real strong names coming through. But Silverstone as a whole, I think it holds a soft spot in a lot of people's hearts. But what do you think for, you know, these drivers that aren't like home to Silverstone? What does it mean to them, do you think, for winning this race?
It's still all else a massive championship to get. Oh, when we've been greeted by some lovely British weather as well, by the looks of it in qualifying, which could throw, like I said, a bit of a spanner in the works. But yeah, no, it's, you know, just in this championship, every race is so important because, of course, it's a reduced length calendar anyway. But, you know, there's definitely some highlights on this calendar that a lot of drivers want to win. You know, you've got the likes of Suzuka, you've got even Montreal and the Red Bull Ring. Then you've got Silverstone as well. You know, there's a lot of tracks to get at here. And yeah, I think this is probably, from what, you know, when drivers put up tier lists of the tracks they enjoy the most, this is one of the ones that I see normally fairly close to the top. So I think for a lot of drivers, this is just a fun track to drive on. They want to do well, they enjoy it, and I think they're going to be more than up for a race.
Wow, this is incredible. Wet weather shows. I mean, we've had quite a lot of wet coming around in this season for WR, but we've got a little bit more coming, and
yeah.
I mean, this is going to prove that Ronha is a worthy champion if he can come through this, or it just shows how quick the likes of Shadow and Sparks are. If they can transform that dry pace into the wet, well, I'm really looking forward to how they're going to handle this. But obviously, we don't know if the race is going to be dry or not.
No, of course. That's makes it a little bit more tense as we're going through a session. But look, it's even full wet conditions. That's the thing. So, you know, maybe if the rain does lighten up a little bit, we could see a situation where it's effectively last across the line. We see it all the time in real life, and it is, yeah, it's a pretty big thing that we've got going on here now, because a lot of drivers, they know it's important. You've really got to build up some momentum. But if it's drying out as this session goes on, we basically could end up with a pretty mixed up grid. If someone doesn't get their last run in perfectly in the best conditions, then they end up with effectively what was their banker lap. So yeah, we could end up with a completely mixed up grid, which I don't think would be too fussed about at all.
I think it would just be, well, it would just show some credentials of how good these drivers are, as Sparks is desperate to keep, Shadow is desperate to keep track position on the first qualifying lap, as Critch tried to overtake, but down the hanger straight on qualifying. This is how I think vital it is for Shadow to have that first lap out and just maybe set a marker out for some of these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely, because they know if they can be competing with likes of Shadow in the wet, then yeah, you know, it's a pretty good sign that they could be in for a fairly good race, as long as conditions don't change too much. Of course, we have no idea what the weather for the race is like at the moment. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat to see if anyone if anyone does say anything. But Shadow is I think disconnected, so he'll be trying to get back in. But yeah, so yeah, at the moment it's, yeah, just, you know, see someone get a banker in, try to beat it. I mean, pace too early on in these conditions isn't too important because a lot of drivers do build up momentum at different speeds. So yeah, as you go on, we'll see the times tumble, I'm sure, as drivers just simply get used to it. Even if the conditions don't improve, the times will probably go down by part of the session. So yeah, at the moment it's a bit of a reconnaissance lap. These early times don't read too much into them, I don't think. But yeah, at the moment we're effectively in equal track conditions. So yeah, let's see what these early times are looking like.
It's going to be an interesting one. We've seen Shadow go very, very close to extending at Cops, but he managed to keep it within those lines. He's exactly, what he needed. Unfortunately, we've lost Bartak, so that was a disqualification for parked in a dangerous position. Not sure how he's managed that when he disconnected, but I'm sure he's not going to be too happy about that last week's winner. But he's maybe going to do a last to first challenge. But round into into club is now Shadow, and what can he do? What banker lap has the Alfa Romeo put here? And it's up at 1:38 dead. It's a pretty good lap time, but what can Critch do in response? He was the next guy to go across the line, and the Ferrari driver Will managed to put in a 1:39.1, so there's already a second between the two drivers.
Yeah, and Ron Haas had an incredibly scruffy lap, and the lap time does reflect it. Half a second down on Shadow. Sparks just going 200ths quicker than Shadow. Could this be one of their best performances in quali we've seen so far? We'll have to see from the Alfa Romeo team. Logic picking himself up into P3 ahead of Ron Haas as well, so that's not a bad lap from the Mercedes driver at all. And then, yeah, Luca not doing fantastic. Placky's done a decent lap there. Got himself up into P5. And yeah, looking around the grid as the drivers finish their first lap, it was not a great lap from Ron Ha. He definitely made a couple of mistakes going into the final couple of corners. He'd have a massive lockup under braking, and that I think definitely cost him a 10th or 2 going through club. So yeah, there's more time out there for most of these guys. Like I said before, we will see these times tumble, but Ron Ha definitely the one that not quite out of position, but a little bit off the pace.
Yeah, but like you quite rightly mentioned earlier on, this is just like equal playing fields for everyone right now, as Connor trying his best to keep it in through Maggots, Beckett's and through Chapel, and he's doing well at the moment, but everyone pretty level playing field. But interesting enough, there's a lot of times very similar. You've got it's Darkkiller 1:38.3 putting himself into third. But there's a lot of people doing very, very similar times. As Shadow goes even quicker with a 1:37.7, maybe just trying to displace his teammate a little bit there.
Yeah, just about. And hello, Critch. That's not a bad lap at all. Picking himself up into P3, and Critch joining the league as a reserve for this week. So yeah, he's doing pretty well so far. Oh, there's a couple of... I'm seeing a lot of Larry moments from drivers at the moment. I'm surprised we haven't seen more yellows out there. We've seen a couple pop up. I think most of them are drivers coming in and out of the pit lane. But there's been some really good saves so far. And yeah, let's get a couple more of those because it's pretty entertaining stuff.
Ron Ha manages a 1:37.4 to displace Shadow. So the times are tumbling a little bit as these drivers get themselves used to the track, and there goes Alfie with a 1:38.4. So a second slower than Ron Ha at the moment. Jonas has invalidated his lap time. I wonder if anyone else is going to continue on. Let's see what Connor can do.
Yeah, look through the grid. I think Agonized, he's got himself a couple of he's just finished a lap, actually, I'm fairly sure. Let's just look at the deltas across the grid. I think Logic's the one most likely to improve it if he's actually giving it a game. Might be on in that. Yeah, I think he might be. So yeah, if you want it, hop back on. We'll see what he can do. So he's getting very, very cautiously through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel at the end. He's doing pretty well. And here we go now, coming through Stowe. Let's see how much grip there is, how much throttle he dare put into that car. Not a lot, to be honest. I think he's probably got a little bit more pace that he can be running through there. The track probably will allow just a little bit more. Shadow going even quicker again and just pipping Ron Ha as well.
So these drivers happy to put extra laps on their wets, which is indicating that it could be dry too, as Critch goes P3. Which is indicating that it could be dry in the race with these guys putting more and more laps on their wets, which is not a bad idea. Connor puts himself up into 9th place. I wonder if Sparks has got himself onto a lap. He is coming down into Cops now, and will he invalidate? No, he's not. He's just started his laps, hasn't he? So
Logic did improve in the end. He's got himself up into P6, so he's just overtaken Dark.
Oh wow, yeah, great! All this action. Only 3 drivers into the pits. Oh, sorry, 4th if you include Bartak in that as well. So these drivers happy just to keep on out, and it's given us loads of action to look at. And we're not really sure what's going where. So let's see what Nico's just improved. Has Jonas got a lap of time in him this time? He does. 2-lap old wets, but he's coming into club now. And what can he do? Had a really good start to the season, but he seemed to have just dropped off a little bit, the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, well, we say that from some other people, but absolutely. He's definitely got the pace and could be doing in races a fair bit better, but he's had big chunks of bad luck, picking up more penalties than other drivers he tends to in the race. Just 1 or 2 more warnings does end up accumulating. And yeah, he drops positions because of it. And it's quite unlucky because, like we've seen so many times, picking the right strategy, having a decent race and getting involved in some unlucky contact, just making a bit of a mistake. It can go so wrong so quickly, and I think he has had a barrel of bad luck come his way so far, but he'll be hoping that barrel's run dry now and throughout the rest of the season. He could put in some better performances because he's definitely capable of it and deserves to be doing a bit better in the championship too.
Definitely for the Aston driver there, and Sparks then goes quickest, 0.2 of a second quicker than his teammate. But what can Ronhard do? He's coming around the final corner now, and across the line it's only P2, so 0.2 separate the top 3 drivers, and this is what we've been expecting all season. And I think that's agonised crash going into the pit lane.
Shadow's a 10th up through turn 1, up to sector 1, sorry, as well. Yeah, as he's coming around now. Can he get on the traction early? Yeah, he's in 5th gear, so that's good. It's a good wet gear to be in there. Oh, good gear to be in the wet. Come through woodcut now. You want to take as tight a line as possible as you arrive up to Cops. Let's see how brave these drivers are going to be. Going right to the left-hand side of the track on entry and exit. Not bad at all for the Alfa Romeo driver. Now Shadow coming into Max Beckett. So let's see if he can hold on to that car. See if the front end will play here. And it seems to be so far. Rear end looking incredibly stable as well. But that's more for the reduced revs in this very, very treacherous conditions as we fly down the hangar straight now. I don't think he's going to be quite benefiting from slipstream from the driver ahead as he comes through Stone now. We're seeing some interesting... not lines, but definitely gears. I think the drivers higher up in the grid are definitely using higher gears through some of these corners. I think that's probably where quite a bit of the lap time's coming from. Is just having that know-how to, just keep the revs down as much as you can. And he crosses the line. He goes up into P1, beating Sparks by over 0.4.
Well, Sparks goes into the pits. He's not going to do anything this time round. What can Ronhard do? Will Ronhard go into the pits? He's looking like he's going slow. So he doesn't want to put another lap on those tyres and finally get a little bit of a break with some of these drivers coming into the pits. But there's still plenty of drivers out on track. Tribion then hasn't set the world alight with his time at the moment with a 1:38.2 down in 12th place. But he's coming through into Brooklands and Luffield now. And let's see how he can handle. Obviously not the best of seasons so far for him. But there is a lot of work he can still do.
Yeah, definitely at the moment. Yeah, we've just got the drivers coming in now. They've finally run out of fuel, but they're don't fret, guys. They're going to be coming back out again. It doesn't look like that rain is lightening up much at all. But we do have some info that is going to be a dry race, which gives us a free choice of tyres, which could also be quite entertaining because we are going to get some fairly split strategies, I think. I think we could see drivers on all 3 compounds of tyres. That wouldn't surprise me too much.
Ooh, and Square has spun it at Club there. That is not what he would have wanted, and he's facing the wrong way round, so he needs to get himself back through pretty quickly. Is Shadow on a lap? Is Shadow back on a lap? Is he still going strong? No, he is popping into the
I think I think he probably thought about it. And thought, no, we're going to come in. If you're not improving by too much, starting to run out of fuel, just head back in. You're going to get better times in the last couple of minutes. So yeah, just make sure you're well fueled, well in the flow of it. Because you don't want to come out for one last run here in wet conditions, unless it's like genuinely like lightening up. And the track's drying out. You're not going to gain too much time from it. You need to be in the momentum. You're going to gain more time that way. So yeah, I think that's why we're seeing with 5 minutes left, just gone 4. We're going to have drivers coming out around now on a couple of laps fuel, probably 3 or 4 hot laps worth, and they're just going to keep circulating, keep improving on their times because ERS is not an issue.
Yeah, that's the huge thing is they can set that ERS for whatever they need, because there is a lot of braking here, and the wet weather is just huge right now. And so they're still struggling on this as well. That's the main thing, is these guys are struggling a little bit in the wet, so they can improve. And it's exactly what we're looking for, is the improvement in times. And with the more they do the laps, the quicker they're going to get. And I'm waiting to see if Shadow, Sparks or Ronhar can maybe eclipse just to the top end of the 36s.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely possible as we get to the, as the fuel tanks start to run dry. It's definitely possible. Let's put it that way. We'll have to see. Jonas is slightly improving. He's half a tenth up just through Sector 1. We're about to get a Sector 2 split in a moment's time. Let's see if he can keep this lap on track. As a bit too much of a lift, probably. I don't think that was the ideal line through Cops. Definitely Shadow took that a lot more confidently and with a lot more mid-quarter speeds. That could be where Jonas is losing a little bit of time at the moment. Let's see a Sector 2 split as it's coming up in just a second as he exits Beckett's. Let's see. Yeah, he's just about 10th up, so he's slightly quicker through Sector 2. Just a slight improvement of a couple of hundredths. Let's see if he can hold it through Stowe now. How aggressive is he going to be? 5th gear. You see, this is where Shadow was taking it in 6th gear. So, like I say, there's some real differences in the gears that the drivers are running. I think for Jonas, it actually looked a little bit quicker, but we're not too sure about that without having a live delta. But let's see, as Jonas now, he rounds final corner, coming up to the line, and he beats Logic to P4 by just 200ths of a second for the moment. And I don't think there's many drivers out there. Placky's half a second up. I think he's the main improvement looking out track so far.
Yeah, Logic had only just displaced Jonas as well. So nice little response there from Jonas to get back in front for the time being. And we're on board with Luke, who's 7/10ths up on his time. So plenty of time improvement on that Red Bull. And he's coming through now. I wonder how much quicker he's going to end up being, because he's looking rapid on this lap time.
Yeah, at the moment it's looking good. Just wait to see Ronhar's split. He's actually 1.5 tenths up in a purple Sector 1, so I think Ronhar's one to look out for here. This could be really good. And who's just crossed the line? Trying to see as a Red Bull driver. I think that was yes, Lut. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Lut. I don't know how to say his name. Yes, he's going across the line. Yes, actually, Red Bull are putting in a fairly decent showing so far. I'd say Mercedes are doing fairly well as well. Both drivers inside of the top 10. Yeah, looking around at the moment, just trying to see who's improving the most. Matthew Reese is improving by quite a bit. Placky's got 2 tenths up, but I think Ronhar is the main one to watch at the moment. He is a 10th, and I've always made a big mistake though. Just as he goes into trap, he's 2 tenths down, so Ronhar has lost that time. His Logic up into P2, he's doing really well, finishing off that lap, done very well. Oh, and he's nearly binned it at the exit of the second corner. That could have gone quite wrong. But luckily the walls aren't too close. It's quite a forgiving circuit, Silverstone, for the most part. There's not many walls that you're going to manage to hit. Yeah, it's interesting to see at the moment, obviously, because a lot of drivers are on higher fuel than when they set their last lap. No one's really improving too much at the moment. Matthew Reese has got 2 tenths as he's coming through the final corner. Now let's see what he's going to do. He can, Raceway just pipped him to P11, and then Matthew Reese immediately took that position back. So all they've achieved is closing in on Critch slightly, who is down on his lap at the moment. So maybe under a little bit of pressure from the cars behind.
Yeah, just looked through it as well. Ronhar made a huge mistake coming through a Vale there, and that he lost even more time. 2.1 seconds down in the end. What can Alfie do? He's 137 dead there. He's up into P2. So the Alpine driver of Alfie showing us some extra pace there. We've got 29 seconds remaining. Ronhar's in a little bit of trouble down in P5 at the moment. He's got to, this is crunch time for him. He's got to make sure he gets that lap sorted. And there's loads of cars coming over the line now. Who is going to be one of these? Wilson, that's he's already done. So let's go on board with his teammate as he rounds the final few corners. What can he do? Can he improve on his 13th place? It's unlucky for some, but will it be unlucky for Placky? And he stays in P13. So a few more drivers coming.
2 tenths up. Ronhar 2 tenths up at the moment, and he is on course to maybe if he can really get the time through the final sector, pose a threat to the top 4. Let's see if he can improve. He's definitely set, I'd say, for 3rd place, unless he makes a big mistake. Not locking up much. The front left maybe just locking a little bit. Drivers starting to give up on their laps now. Ronhard rounding the final corner. He goes up into P2. He gains a lot of time, a whole, well, 10th and a half in the final sector, but just not enough as he loses out Shadow by a 10th, but Shadow is up himself, and Alfie, he's not going to be getting another lap in. He's about 4 seconds down now. Sparks improving slightly, but I don't think it's going to relate into a position unless his sector 2 split's great.
No, I think, well, I'm putting on board with Luke. He's the next driver to come across. Had a all right qualifying. He goes very wide there. He's now invalidated his lap time. Sparks then. Can he done? He's only just above. It might be enough to displace Jonas, though. That is his aim, I'm sure, at the moment.
Alfie.
Is just to get himself back up in there.
Yeah, he could just about pip Alfie to P3, and maybe, if like I say, if this is a great last sector, he might just be able to get on the front row of the grid. But I think, judging by sector 2 split, it's not looking likely. He's gone a little bit deep as well, and he's just got a bit of a compromised line now coming into club, and a big twitch of oversteers. Should be free. Oh, he's just gone P2 as well. He's just beaten Ronhard by half a 10th.
Wow, by Sparks. And you wonder if that then would have been a pole position lap if he hadn't made those mistakes at the end. Incredible at the end from Sparks.
Yeah, there was easily half a 10th out there. So, yeah, Sparks might be ruining that.
Let's just run down the grid then. It's the Alfa Romeo lockout. A Shadow and Sparks. Incredible from those two, with Ronhard in 3rd place. Alfie in 4th and Jonas in 5th and Square in 6th. In 7th place is Logic with Placky in 8th. 9th is Agonised, and 10th, rounding out the top 10, is Luke. In 11th place is Nico. Wilson in 12th. Critch in 13th with Matthew Rees in 14th. 15th is Raceway with Tribion in 16th and Luca in 17th. Connor in 18th. Dark Killer in 19th. And unfortunate disqualification for Bartak will round out our qualifiers there. What an incredible qualifier. Just constant action in qualifying. Not used to that. But these guys now have a fresh set of tyres when they come into the race. And it's going to be interesting to see these guys' strategy through it all. Let us know in the chat who you think is, or how you think this is going to pan down. I can see some real weird strategies coming through. I'm not sure about you.
No, absolutely. Like I said a minute ago, I'm fairly sure we're going to see one of each tyre. We are also doing a restart because people are having issues with the lobby, which I can relate to from the last couple of weeks. So a lot of sympathy there. But yeah, we're going to do a quick restart just to make sure that all of the drivers can get into the lobby. And of course, race, because it's quite unfair for them to lose the opportunity to score some great points because the game's not quite playing ball. So for anyone who doesn't know, the grid is going to stay exactly the same. Everybody's going to be able to start on the tyres that they choose, because that was what we got from the wet qualifying session. Everyone set their times on the wets, so it's all going to stay the same on that front. But yeah, so just a couple more minutes for you to bear with us while we get a new lobby set up. And yeah, like we say, we've got a great grid, as it says in the chat. This should be a pretty good race.
While that is all being reset up, let's go back to the standings and have a look at that. Obviously, Shadow giving himself an incredible opportunity here to get himself into, back into title contention with Ronhard. All Ronhard has to do, though, is finish second, and it just adds that pressure to Shadow, especially if Shadow wins, or especially if he doesn't win. You know, Ronhard could finish anywhere in the points, and if Shadow doesn't get points, then you know that's added pressure to Shadow, which he doesn't need right now.
Yeah, without that final last lap from Ronhard, he could have been in a pretty shaky spot that Shadow would have very much been enjoying. But you know, now the two Alfa Romeo drivers both very close to the championship, only separated by 3 points. And we could get to the stage. I don't think at any point Sparks was going to go easy on Shadow. But, you know, any sort of argument that Shadow had of, look, I'm ahead of you in the championship, miles ahead, you're not in contention. Well, Sparks has just gone within 3 points. Sparks wants to fight for it. And, you know, without a couple of poor races, Sparks could be doing better, much like Shadow could as well. So it's very much, I'd say, a 3-way title fight. Ronhard, just by luck and skill at the moment, a lovely combination, has got himself a fairly decent lead in the championship. So you know, if this isn't a great race for Ron Haar, he can afford a couple of second and third places and still have a fairly healthy championship lead. It's when you get into the territory where you're finishing outside the top 5 or retiring from the race. That's when it's an issue, especially if Shadow and Sparks both perform well.
I mean, the one thing that Ron Haar has got up his sleeve right now is he's not finished on the podium, and that is an incredible stat to have at the first 5 races. Can he push it over into Great Britain? We'll have to wait and see, as we're still waiting for the lobby to get itself reset up, and that's the thing that's been unfortunate for both Shadow and Sparks, is that they've had a couple of low scoring points and even non-scoring points finishes, which has enabled Ron Haar just to gain that 29 or 32 point gap over the 2 Alfa Romeos. And we haven't really seen the best of Jonas either. Like we said earlier, he could still get himself into this. Square was an early contender as well, and his 3rd place last week actually improved his positioning. So there is a possibility that this could all come to a grinding halt to Ron Haar. His luck, I suppose, like you said, could run out.
Yeah, it just takes one bad race and you can see a very healthy championship lead completely eroded in one foul swoop. So, obviously, he'll be hoping that doesn't happen. But, I mean, if you look at it mathematically, his championship lead is safe today. We're not going to see a change in championship leader. But Shadow can put himself in a really healthy position, well, actually, along with Sparks, because, like I said, they're so close to each other in the championship at the moment. Yeah, they could put themselves in a great position to be the prime contender to fight Ron Haar. But I think for the rest of the season, Ron Haar's basically just got 2 Alfa Romeos that are going to be fighting him at every turn for this championship. And could their battles maybe get in the way and allow Ron Haar through?
It's in the game.
I mean, that is the possibility, as I've just reset my game. So you're going to have the EA Sports sound come through your headset. So apologies for that. As we, we're waiting for everything to all pan out and get sorted. But you're exactly right. Ron Haar, the 2 Alphas fighting away could enable Ron Haar just to go, or it could work against them. Those 2 could just use it as an advantage on tracks, I guess, like Belgium, even Silverstone to an extent. You've got those 3 straights that they could just use that to help each other, don't fight, pull themselves away from Ron Haar and everything else, and everyone else, and then the last 5-10 laps of the race, battle it out.
Yeah, definitely at the moment, and yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm thinking how these strategies are going to play out. I'm not 100% sure what I'd go for in this situation because there's quite a few different options. You could realistically start on any of the tyres, especially on the hards. If you get a safety car at the right time, that could be an absolute lifesaver. You just hang it out and then hope for a late safety car, and you could very much be in the prime position to win the race. Strap on a set of softs quickly, and you're off. So yeah, at the moment, so I'm just trying to join back into lobby at the same time as saying a sentence. It's not going great, but yeah, it should be pretty good as the race unfolds. Hopefully, we don't get many safety cars because if we do get alternating strategies at the start, it would be pretty fun to see how the strategies play out because they all tend to meet at the end. All of them just collide a little bit, and we get to see some absolutely brilliant racing with drivers struggling for grip and those that are more than confident to just absolutely go for it in all the corners. Incredibly late braking, and yeah, they can get the job done. So yeah, like I say, safety car can add a lot to the race, and I think potentially some good racing as well. But a small part of me would like to see how it plays out.
You said that a late safety car could help them if they go on the hard or even the medium compound tyre, but an early one could hinder them massively. And we don't know. We've had it before where we've had an early safety car and a late safety car, so we don't know how this is going to work out. And this is the beauty about racing, I presume. I say I presume. For my opinion, anything can happen, and it generally does. I don't think anyone would have put Bartak to win a race this season, but he's done a phenomenal job and taken the Austrian Grand Prix, right place, right time, and right strategy.
Yeah, and that's a massive part of motor racing. That's Yeah, you really do. You need the luck. You need everything to go your way. Typically in a race, you can make a fair bit of your own luck, using your own pace in qualifying. You can start yourself in the right position, but at the end of the day, if someone wipes the top three out, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So so much of it is down to luck and how other drivers perform, and that's like you say, that's a bit of the beauty of it. Anything could happen, and yeah, anything normally does. Bartek Fraz's win, as you say in Austria, is absolutely it's a brilliant story and brilliant race as well. Um, and I think probably we're going to expect one or two more surprise wins throughout the season. I'd like to see Alfie get brilliant qualifying performances this year, and then the race hasn't quite been there for the most part, but hopefully he can be in. He can be in for a good shout.
Yeah, I mean, Alfie's a great one there, a great pick for a driver to have a decent race, but it's not being quite there yet. Another one is WR Connor, Bahrain. He was incredible getting that third place finish as well. But we're just not quite seen it yet fully. A Square and Jonas being very, very close to victories with second place finishes this season. And even Raceway taking a second place in Canada. So I think you are right. Anyone can claim a victory this season, but the likelihood is it's always going to not always going to be. The likelihood is it's Ron Haar, Shadow, and Sparks are the ones to watch.
Yeah, because the odds are one of them are going to have a clean race, and at that point, they're incredibly rapid drivers. You'd expect them to win it. But yeah, it is. It's even if they have a great race, another driver can just put in an odd performance that just propels them up into a great qualifying position, and they hold on through the race. So it can go either way. And I think there's definitely a couple of drivers on the grid who are going to attempt to do that today. Get a good quali, get yourself up in sort of P4, P3, and then just try to hold on. You should be able to defend fairly well here. You can, if you have enough skill, you can prevent an overtake fairly well.
And that's the thing. I think we're going to see preventing of overtakes as well as some incredible overtakes in positions that we're not used to seeing at Silverstone, because people will be so frustrated at holding it. Usually into Stowe we see, or into Cops we see the overtakings happen, but I think maybe through into Village maybe this time and into Brooklands we might see a few more overtakes. Even I've seen it in the past, people around the outside of Luffield. All of these things are possible for these drivers, and I think I'm certain that these guys are going to be able to produce some cracking overtakes, and maybe even through Maggots and Beckett's. It's very rare. Usually it comes off people crying, but I have seen people drive side by side through there.
I would not be surprised. There's so many times this season where I've just gone, how have they done that? And you get some really bold moves. I think there was some incredibly opportunistic moves at Canada, and they, for the most part, paid off, and it was brilliant to watch. A couple of drivers getting a little bit over ambitious with some back markers and losing out that way. That's another thing to look out for, because we will get split strategies. There will be times when the soft runners at the start, medium runners, have to overtake, let's say, medium and then hard runners as well as the race goes on. So everyone's got to be really careful, really patient at times. You've got to know when to be patient and when to go for it. And that could, again, as with every race, be the difference.
Definitely. So the lobby has restarted. We are now, fingers crossed, sorted and ready. I believe they are just setting the drivers into position now. So not much longer until lights out of this 26-lap British Grand Prix. Silverstone, a heart of motor racing into some people's eyes, and it's definitely one to watch. And WR, I'm sure, is going to be no different this season to these guys racing it through to full throttle, out of their heart on their sleeve racing, whatever you want to describe it as. We will, I'm sure, get some incredible action, and I just hope that this isn't a problem for too much longer with this game. So much promise, and unfortunately we haven't got it just yet, but fingers crossed that they'll come good eventually. I mean, in a normal race, I say normal race, if you started on the softs in qualifying. We didn't have that wet. How would you go about handling this race for Silverstone?
That's a good question. Obviously, the qualifying plays a big part in what you're going to do. I'd argue, not even arguably, I think I'd rather start on the medium tyres to have the pace at the end, that extra grip. It does just consolidate your position, and hopefully you can end up closing in quite a lot and getting a good finish. So it's not the hardest track to overtake on, but it's not the easiest either. I'd say it's probably around the middle. There's some good heavy braking zones. We've got people readying up now, guys. So we are going to get into this race in just a moment's time. But yeah, it could be interesting. I think if in this situation, I definitely want to start on the medium tyres. But we're going to see drivers start on the softs, and we're going to see drivers start on the hard, would be my thought. Probably, I don't know who'd start on the softs. Maybe the lead, one or two of the leaders, just hoping to get a little bit of a lead early. It'll be interesting because it will show how attacking the drivers are planning on being in the opening laps. If they're going for the softs, they're thinking in their head when they're deciding, I'm going to try to make as many places as I can. You know, you're going to suffer a little bit later in the race, but if you can make 2 or 3 places off the start, it's probably going to offset the loss. So yeah, you know, it's a real indicator of where people's mind is at going into this. Ron Ha has left the session, so he's disconnected. That is very big because it means that he won't be able to join, I don't think, during the formation lap, so he'll have to join after the race has started. So the AI is going to have to do a little bit of work for him.
That is just gutting. So we are nearly underway, but gutting for Ron Ha. We've got both Alfa Romeos at the front row of the grid. Chat, let us know who you think is going to win. But the age-old question I always ask is, who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, I think I'll go with the chat on this one, whatever they say. No, I have no idea today. It'll be really interesting. I want to see the Alphas giving it a good go. I'd like to see Alfie do well. I really do want to see that. I'd love to see him picking like a top 2 or maybe even a win if the Alphas do come to blows at battling at any point in the race. But all we know so far is it's never straightforward. That is what we've seen this season. It is never a straightforward race from start to finish. No one's been able to pull off and just hold that lead. So no matter what, we're going to have some great racing for the top positions with some of the drivers on Xbox at one of the top circuits in the world. So let's see if this is going to be a good race. We're going to have to wait and see in a moment what tyres everybody opts for. I can see a couple of people loads of people are switching to the mediums, but a couple in the top 10. Ron Ha will be starting on the softs. I'm fairly sure his AI is going to go for that. Alfie at the moment, it looks like he's going to be going for the softs too. Maybe even Jonas, Square. This could be quite good, actually. I like the idea of having this mixed grid. I can't see anyone going for the hards, which is making me very sad because I like it when they do that. I just like seeing the hards as the race goes on. And, you know, someone stays out for 20 laps, safety car comes out at the right time, you tend to have a pretty chaotic ending.
Yeah, definitely. You're always going to have some sort of crazy thing. And there's only one driver at the moment who is on the softs, and that is...
Oh, Bartek Braz as well.
Oh, so Bartek. I was looking only at the top 10, but Bartek and Ron Ha, 2 drivers starting on the softs. So Ron Ha has it all to do. And that is such a shame for him. I know he would have wanted something a little bit different. Let's bring up what we want here.
And, I know I said I'm going to go with the chat, but I think a Lutz 10th to first, I'm not going to put my money on. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, that should be pretty good. So yeah, everyone's gone, as you say, for the medium tyres, apart from... Oh, hang on, is that a Red Bull flying into barriers in the background on the formation lap? That's not a great start for Raceway. I'm not quite sure. Oh, it wasn't. Yeah, Raceway. No, it wasn't Raceway. Who was that? I think it might have been.
Is that Lutz?
Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah. So that's that 10th to first isn't looking too optimistic from the formation lap, at least. Let's hope he doesn't repeat that. He's getting the crashes out of his system on the formation lap. So yeah, he's gonna drive around just behind Fraz for the moment. He's not gonna get himself back up where he's meant to be in P10 before he starts. And yeah, this is devastating for Ron Hart. Has he actually rejoined? I haven't seen it pop up. He probably has, but I wouldn't have seen it. So yeah, Ron Hart's in a bit of trouble here. He's starting on the non-optimum tyres. And then also, he's going to have a bad start with the AI. He's going to lose a couple of places. He's got a lot of work to do.
He's going to also be without a setup.
Setup. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
looking at that, this
is beyond redemption, to be honest. This could be that, not quite DNF, but non-scoring race from Ronha that we were talking about. He'll still have the championship lead if it's any consolation, but if he does too well here, that would be quite surprising.
Yeah, as the drivers all popping down now into Vale Club. Well, not that far yet, but the drivers are going to be setting themselves through. And Ronha has yet to come back into the session. And, wow, this is crucial for a championship battle. Halfway through the season, if the Alphas can capitalise on this, then it is going to be huge. But it's all down to them to capitalise. They might not be able to. That is the huge thing about this. You can see the predicted stop strategy. They're saying lap 10 to 13 to go on to hards. I think most of these guys will be going mediums for a lot longer than that.
Yeah, they will. Absolutely.
But we'll wait for the lights then here and it's on 3, 4 lights, 5 lights here at Silverstone. And away we go. Is there there's a good start there from Jonas, I think, and he's got to get the done. And there's a Red Bull into the wall in the background. Shadow has got the lead through, and there's a Mercedes off in the side there. Square up into 3rd place. Alfie holding 4th, and is that Ronha off into the wall straight away? Is he even in the game yet? Square trying to battle Alfie now. Square's lost the position, and what has happened through all that?
Yeah, I was on board with Ronha at the start because I thought his AI would give me a good view. I think it's him racing, and he's just put it in the wall as well. It's a very weird AI if it's not him. But yeah, no, basically his car didn't start. It had no revs at the start at all. And then once he did get going, tyres were so cold, he just basically veered left into the wall. And there's a lot going on. Critch is backwards, Connor's backwards, so they've come to blows with each other, I'd think. So that's not good at all. Bartek Frass has got himself up into P13 already, and he's going round the outside of Wilson, around Cops. This could be a brilliant move now. As we enter Maggers and Beckett's, he's got the inside line. It becomes the outside, and then it's the inside again. But Wilson just able to hold on for the moment.
I think this is what Bartak was counting on. The quicker tyre, heated up quicker on the formation lap, and he's going full throttle for it at the moment. He's now, though, under attack from Trivion behind, but he's managing to hold position at the moment. Let's go back up to Square, who is having a battle with Alfie and Square. This looks like it could be an absolute crazy one between the two of them as they swap position twice already on the opening lap.
Yeah, probably going at it at the moment. So, yeah, we're coming into pit lane's corner. Does anyone else pit? I think Critch, we'll have to see if he has picked up some wing damage in that context. He's not pitted, so I think Critch has escaped damage. Unlike Connor, unfortunately. Dark Killer going down the inside of Luca. Oh, there's a McLaren sideways as well for good measure. Bartek Fraz, he had such a good start. But then we see him sideways as the two are going side by side. And I think that, I'm not sure, I think that caught Lucas slightly off guard because he ended up skipping the second corner.
That's not great back there, unfortunately. There's 2 pit stops, Ronha and Connor. Ronha's back into the race. He's got apparently the spectator glitch, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on with Ronha there. That is not what he would have wanted at all as we wait for it to all pan out. And the 2 Alphas then pulling away from Square, who's holding position in front of Alfie finally, as we see Wilson run through Mackett's and Beckett's. And let's see what Square can do now. Can he finally catch up with these Alphas now he's kind of lost Alfie?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can. All power to him. We've seen him put in some great performances so far this season. So let's see if he can do it again and pick up a really good result. So it's going to be a hard ask because these 2 Alphas are incredibly fast. But if they start battling, and look, you set the fast lap of the race, so, you know, never say never. But if these 2 do start battling, then Square is definitely in with a chance. It's when DRS is active and he could just stick to their gearbox. That's when we will see whether he can pose a real threat. If he can just save the RS, then get the move done at the right time with their 2 battling. We have a yellow flag, actually. Is that for, I think that's for Critch. Yeah, it is Critch. He's got off at the final corner. He's in the gravel, so this isn't going too well so far. Oh, and a 10-second penalty as well for being off track. That is really rubbing salt in the wounds of that Ferrari, and he's got no grip at all through the first corner. That was about 2 or one apex.
He's not having fun back there. I can just see his dot keep on moving around, but Square just in the DRS zone of the two ahead at the moment. He's within that range, which is going to be vital for him as he come down the hanger straight, as long as he keeps it through Maggots and Beckett's, as it's getting very, very close to being dropped out. But everyone else at the moment, all managing to hold station at the moment since the start lap.
And everybody within DRS of the car ahead, all the way down to Matthew Rees, who has closed in a little bit on Luca this lap. So we could be seeing all the way down to effectively P16 within DRS. And as I say, that Dark just drops out of DRS. Dark, you just speed up just a little bit for me. There we go. So yeah, this could be a bit of a DRS train, but at Silverstone you expect nothing less. And I think it can deliver some fairly good chaotic racing with drivers knowing they need to be opportunistic. And let's see if Square can close in, because he's going to need Shadow and Sparks to use up a lot of their ERS. Square currently actually has the least out of all three, and Alfie has just a little bit less behind. So Square, I think we could be seeing him keeping his eyes behind him more than forwards several stages during this race, because Alfie will be wanting that podium position. And Jonas and Lutt as well, actually already up into P6. Maybe that P1 isn't out the question if he does have the pace as we go. Yeah, Ronha retiring from the race. That's no surprise at all. And there we go. That's no points in Critch retiring as well. Again, not a surprise at all. But Jonas is right on the back of Alfie here. Will he be able to do anything to that Alpine ahead?
I don't think he's going to have the... Alfie's just got the... just got that little bit extra because of Square ahead, as we watch from the rear angle of Square as they all come through. Alfie's looking a little bit squiffy through Maggots and Beckett's. That is not good, and I think he might be under severe pressure from Jonas this time round, but the DRS is definitely helping him. No, Jonas does not have a chance. As Sparks, I don't think he's going full attack on his teammate just yet.
No, I think there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on at the moment. You know, you don't want to attack too much. He's not using a lot of his ERS. Early stages, just try to pull out a little bit of a gap to the cars behind. You really just don't want to mess up your position. Dark's actually gone round and he's retired from the race as well. So our third retirement already. Dark Killer out of this race and picking up no points again. And yeah, it's not an ideal start to the race to find yourself backwards at club by any means.
Not at all, and I think that's finally some of these cars just disappearing, and it's a shame to see Ronha take his first DNF of the season at round 6, but at the moment it's all going well for Shadow and Sparks. They're going to get some real big points gained on the championship leader heading into the midway point of the season, or round 7. But Jonas just not able at the moment. At the first sector just doesn't seem to have the same pace as Alfie.
No, not at the moment. Alfie, of course, getting a really healthy dose of slipstream and DRS from Square ahead. And I think there's a little bit of a gap here. Square's a little bit offline. He's not got a great exit, kicking up some dust as well. And this could maybe give Alfie a chance, but I don't think Alfie quite has straight line speed. It's Jonas who's looking a little bit more aggressive on the straights at the moment. And yeah, he just can't get close enough. I think we're in for this for quite a lot today. Now Logic and Raceway going at it. Raceway had lost DRS to Nico ahead just a moment ago, so that gave Logic the chance to slipstream and DRS down the straight, and he's got the move done on that Williams driver, putting himself up into P10.
Jonas surely not looking into turn 1. He thinks better of it as Logic gets the fastest lap of the race, but Jonas definitely got the pace advantage over Alfie and tries to go deep into there onto Alfie, but he doesn't. But Alfie's line is now compromised, and he could get a better straight down a better run down the Wellington straight, but Jonas himself actually makes a mistake and costs himself a possible overtaking opportunity as they come now into Brooklands. But it's all a little bit quiet at the top. They get very close, but then nothing really happens.
Yeah, that could be the story for quite a bit of today's race, but it's that opportunistic moment where the car ahead makes a little bit of a mistake that you need to capitalise on. Like this, Alfie, side by side with Square. You're not going to get round the outside of Cops, as impressive as that would be. I'd love to see it, but I think that was a little bit opportunistic, and Alfie rightfully not sticking it round the outside, mostly because he wouldn't have actually made the corner. But let's see if he can just stick with Square. He's not quite lost Square DRS, so Square will have well, the straight line advantage that they're all picking up at the moment, and Lutt is just hanging on within DRS as well. So let's see if he can join this battle of the top 5 for the win. At the moment, this is shaping up to be pretty good because Square definitely has the pace to hold on with Sparks and Shadow ahead.
Now, this is not what those two would have wanted at the front. They would have wanted to make a little bit of a headway, but Square, Alfie, and Jonas are definitely making sure that is not happening. They want to join the party as well, and this could be a saving grace for Ronha with his DNF. They might be able to grab some points away from the Alfa Romeo boys, so we'll have to wait and see how it all pans out. But yeah, all very, very close, and Square gets very close to Sparks through the first sector, so he might be able to give a little bit of an attack on Sparks.
ERS. Yeah, that's interesting because Sparks stopped using his ERS there, and I genuinely think if he kept going, he could have sent it down the inside, and that would have really thrown a spanner into the works. We've seen Sparks; he's not using a lot of ERS at the moment. He's hitting 100% through most of the corners. He's really just not fighting his teammate at the moment. Shadow, I mean, I don't know. I assume they talk to each other a fair bit. Not quite as much as real F1 drivers, let's say, but you know, there's always a little bit of inter-team communication. But yeah, it's interesting to see that Sparks isn't going for it against Shadow at the moment. He's just not piling on the pressure. He's not using ERS down the straights. He might need to, though, and maybe a little bit of pressure from behind, from Square, could force it. And actually, yeah, here we go. Jonas on Alfie. We have seen a move now. Jonas, where's a little bit of contact? I just dreaded seeing that Aston Martin going sideways there.
It was very, very close, but Alfie just snipped in behind under the gearbox, it felt like, and giving Jonas that position. Jonas seemed very, very racy, as now he sets the fastest lap of the race. He took Maggots and Beckett's absolutely perfectly, which has enabled him to have that set on Alfie. And now Jonas is trying to fight his way back into this. And wonder if he's going to be able to get past Square. He's the one, obviously the first one to make a move out of the top 5 in these opening salvos. But these medium tyres will take a long time to wear out.
Oh yeah, they will, absolutely. These guys are going to have enough grip to go for quite some time yet. And the grip's not going to be too much of a problem. Maybe a little bit later on we could see as they start riding the curbs, the car just becoming a little bit more unsettled, and then they do have a little bit more of a challenge on their hands. But for now, I think it's okay. But yeah, it's just Square and Jonas at the moment. I think Jonas, well, as that fastest lap will prove, he really did just optimise his line on the exits going down the straight, and that's how he's able to get the moves done. And like I said, Jonas looking more aggressive on the straights at the moment. He just looks like he has a little bit less wing he's running, and he's just basically able to get past that way at the moment.
He didn't have as good a run through Maggots and Beckett's that time than he did against Alfie, but he was very close through Cops, which is, I think, maybe causing him a little bit of an issue when he does try and make a move just into the hangar straight. He gets too close, and maybe he needs to be a little bit further back just to make sure he gets that run and not so much dirty air. That's the maybe that's the plan for him this time round. But he gets very, very close to Square into turn 1, but just nothing to it at the moment.
No, not at the moment, Jonas. So he does look like he has the pace to maybe get this done. He just needs to find the right moment, capitalise on the right mistake. And at the moment, okay, he's a little bit of oversteer on the exit, a little bit twitchy with some wheel spin, but I think he's just about got away with that, as Jonas didn't have a fantastic exit either. Actually, Square giving it a little, I don't know if that was a look on Sparks, just a little bit of a weave, just going, hey, look, I'm here, keep your eyes out. But Sparks has been, for the last couple of corners now, basically pushing Shadow around the corners. He's on 100% ERS again. These guys are pacing.
Yeah, they're just leading the pack as Luca and Tribion continually trading places a little bit further back, but it feels bad not watching them. But we got to keep an eye on this top of the table battle at the moment, because Shadow and Sparks, just keeping ahead of Square, but Sparks has got a lot in his locker right now, and you just wonder when he's actually going to go for it, and whether he's going to let Shadow go first and then see a little bit of a hammer time from the other, or the sister Alfa Romeo, Jonas getting very close again, but just nothing to it, and that everyone really, down to Nico, is able to cause some problem. Even maybe Logic and Raceway, they're just in that DRS zones of each other.
Yeah, and looking at it, the power of the undercut is going to be absolutely immense if you can pull it off at the right time. The gap between the top 8 is 3.5 seconds. So, like I say, look, realistically, if Agonized pit now onto a set of soft tyres, albeit he wouldn't be able to go till the end of the race, if they pitted a couple of laps later, he would be in first place. It's not the best strategy, and I'm not recommending he does do that. But the undercut opportunity is absolutely there, and if you do it right, you could definitely get a couple of places.
Yeah, and maybe it might kick a couple of people into... surely not from Jonas. He's trying something different through Luffield and may have caused Square to make a mistake as they come down. Woodcut now, surely not around the outside of Cops.
No,
I think he's going to back out.
Yeah, you have to there.
So close, so close. But Alfie's trying to get himself back into the mix as well. But this is what I was on about a few laps ago. Does Jonas get too close to Square through this, well, through Chapel? And I think it compromises his attack on Square down the Hanger Straight.
Yeah, I think it very much does. He's closing in so much. He's just got the confidence through the corners, and it's just not quite there for him. Sparks is so close to the back of Shadow without even using ERS at the moment. Shadow, but you know, Shadow's on 80% ERS. He's barely having to use his as well, and they're just able to pace the grid behind them. And at the moment, it's working really well because Shadow, he's been close several times, but he hasn't proven that he's actually posing an actual threat to Sparks. He's not actually going to take P2 from how it seems at the moment. But all it takes is one mistake, one lockup, go deep somewhere, and then Square's got the run on you. So it's an odd strategy. Realistically, I'll be trying to pull out of DRS at least from Square, I'd think, but evidently not at the moment. And actually, this could be a bit of a commentator's curse, but I think Square might be shaping up a move on Sparks, but he takes the defensive line and breaks just that little bit later without going too deep. So Sparks is able to hold on. But yes, Square's definitely got a little bit of overspeed coming to these corners, just closing in on Sparks, but not quite able to be close enough.
And with no rain forecasted, it's obvious that they are going for another set of dry, soft tyres towards the end. But this is a very, very dangerous game that the Alphas are playing because they can't pit at the same time because they'll double stack, and one of the, well, Sparks at the moment will be caused a very, very duff hand.
Oh, Alfie.
Oh, Alfie's made a mistake.
Oh, wait, no. Okay, what's that? I think it just... Yeah, no, his car just teleported off the track and then reappeared for me. So I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Maybe a little bit of a glitch there, but Sparks get very close, and it looked like he actually had to try and make a move on Shadow because Square was lining up Sparks. So things starting to heat up a little bit, and maybe Shadow's playing his own game. He knows he has to win this because if Sparks wins, he jumps him. He jumps Sparks. He jumps Shadow.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't get I don't really get this. I mean, it's brilliant racing, so we're so close out there on track at the moment. But what if Shadow's... I can't see him holding up Sparks. That's not something that's happening because Sparks isn't using ERS. He's not trying to overtake. He's having to defend at the moment, which is making him get right onto the back of Shadow, which is probably where he doesn't want to be. But Placky's got past Luck now, so that's not a bad move at all. Luck was within DRS, so I think he just about fell out of DRS range from Alfie, and that's how he's lost out. And now could be under maybe a little bit of pressure from likes of Agonized and Nico, who are going to be looking to move their way up into this top battle as well. But let's see what Placky can do. Why not add another car to the back of this scrap?
So the top 5 finally have a little bit of a breakaway, or there is a little bit of a breakaway, and it's a top 5 now. Placky in 6th place has the next train of cars behind, and this could be what the front runners wanted. They could have just wanted it all bunched up a little bit longer, so when they do that pit stop, the undercut, it will cause maybe problems for Square, Jonas and company. But look how close it gets again as Luke gets back past Plaky.
Yeah, not bad at all using the DRS as slipstream to good effect, moving himself up into P6. And now this is just extending the gap and consolidating the idea that we have got a top 5 breakaway group. It's like cycling now. We've just got this top group that are all slipstreaming each other out front. And Alfie maybe just falling a little bit off the back, but if he can just close in a couple of attempts, he's not going to be at too much risk of that. But if he does fall out of DRS, he might begin to struggle without these guys properly battling each other. Jonas just basically sliding through a corner there. That was a little bit odd. I think he might have gone a little bit too deep and lit up the rears just a little bit too much. And yeah, he can't get past Square either, and this is just really frustrating when you're stuck in these trains because you know you're quicker than the cars ahead. I'd say Shadow's probably the slowest out of the top 5 on the pace that they've got given the slipstream and given the DRS, and it just means you're compromised through the corners, which again makes it even harder to overtake from the cars behind and the cars ahead. It's a very, very complicated and finely tuned system that's going on at the moment. It just looks like they're following each other out on the track, but there's many reasons why they can't get past, many reasons why it's all sort of happening as it is. And like I say, this undercut potential is definitely there. If I was Alfie, I'm thinking I'm going to pit a lap or two earlier. Just try to get yourself into this top 4 now.
Again, Jonas just can't get quick enough. And he said that Shadow really should be the slowest of the drivers because of the situation he's in. But he did just set the fastest lap of the race last time out. So he's got that extra pace in his locker if needed. But like you say, and you called it perfectly, Alfie's popped himself into the pits, as is CRG Lut. So they have maybe thrown the dice.
Yeah, and this is interesting from Alfie. Let's see. Obviously, he's got the soft tyres to the end here. But let's see if he can get a good pit stop. He's not held up at all. Maybe a little bit late on the releasing the clutch, like literally a tenth or two. But this should be it now. Let's see how strong this undercut is. Alfie, he has got 1 lap to go for it before the other drivers react, you would think. And if they don't, they might regret it. As Square was, I think, trying to shape up a move on Sparks there. But again, still, the story of the day, not quite close enough.
The problem now, though, I foresee, is for the Alphas. They've obviously Alfie's pulled the trigger. Only one of them can pit next lap, so the other one is going to be a little bit of a sitting duck. If they decide to do it, they could go a little bit longer. We've seen the pace that they've got. I wonder what is actually going to happen. But let's go on board with Square, as he tries to line up Sparks, but it's just not enough again. I don't think he's close enough, or is he? No, the overspeed is just not happening in time, and Sparks is able to just keep the hold of the position. Who pits, though? That is going to be crucial. It's Shadow and Square and Jonas, with Sparks staying out. Let's get on board with Alfie and see how he handles the pressure and whether he can get the jump on them.
Yeah, I've been watching Alfie's lap times. It wasn't a great start to lap, but that's because he was on cold tyres. He lost a couple of attempts, but as this lap's progressed, he's gained 0.7 of a second. So let's see if this can relate to any positions. A lot of drivers coming into the pits now. Alfie bit the bell a little bit early, and he is going to see if it is going to pay off. I don't think... It might be 1 place, maybe. I'd be surprised if it was much more, because the pace is okay, but it's not fantastic.
Crucially, though, Sparks set the fastest lap that lap as well. But as we see coming through Abbey now, there's Jonas, and he's just not going to be behind Square, but he's going to have a lot more pace into the corner, but it's just not going to be enough. So he's only ahead of Jonas.
Remember that. Yeah, he lost a couple of attempts at the start lap because his tyres weren't quite up to temperature. And now you've got to remember that Square and Shadow are both struggling with the same issue. Now look at that, Square already has gone into that gap where Sparks was. So Sparks could easily end up behind Jonas here. This could be a pretty big turning point in that Alfa Romeo 1-2. And it could make it quite a bit more challenging for Sparks. And it could see his podium hopes effectively fade away because it's going to be hard to overtake.
We've seen that already at the beginning of this Grand Prix. Drivers struggling to overtake. Jonas made that brilliant move after lining up Alfie for a few corners, and it looks like he's going to do it again. Will everyone else now pit? It does look that way. Sparks and Nico picking up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's not what he wants. But look at Jonas all over the back of Alfie again.
Yeah, I think you should have him here. Alfie made a little bit of a mistake. The rear end got a little bit loose through Maggots and Beckett's, but he's just... yeah, there we go. Jonas just about getting a move done under braking. Got all 4 wheels off track on the exit, but I don't think the game nor should have too much to say about that one, unless someone's being incredibly picky. So yeah, Jonas gets ahead of Alfie now, and you know what, for Alfie, it was a risk. It was worth it. But let's see. So Sparks actually has pit, so let's see where he comes out now. Sparks, he exits the pit lane, but he can just see the cars flying past him. He's on the inside against Jonas now. He's on cold tyres. He hasn't got the grip. Jonas should have the traction out of the corner. And let's see if down on the straight, Jonas can pull off a move to get himself up into P3. But Square now is the main contender against Shadow for the lead of this race. And let's see if he can use the slipstream and the ERS where Sparks didn't.
Yeah, Shadow probably wouldn't have wanted... And he's made a mistake. Oh, I thought maybe Shadow made a mistake. Square looked like he was setting him up there, and he had a little bit of a back-end wiggle as well. But Jonas unable to make a move on Sparks on the colder tyres, and now Square is unable to do anything on Shadow. And will Sparks now be a little bit more aggressive and attackive? Now it's not his teammate ahead. We'll have to wait and see. And let's go on board as he comes through Chapel and see the angles that they take. As Square's a little bit more, well, wide, and it could have cost him as Sparks is catching him at a rate of knot coming in to Stowe, but it's not enough for both of them, and we've seen that all race long so far.
Oh, sorry, checking at the same time. As Sparks giving the move around the outside of Square. This is surely going to end in contact. It absolutely does. And luckily, none of them end up facing the wrong way, but it has allowed Jonas to get himself up into P3 and now defend straight away. But, it might have been a legal overtake, maybe. And that's why Jonas has just let Sparks basically straight through. I think the game might have had something else to say about that.
I think from the look of it, it looked like it was off a track move, and whether it was Jonas realising that or the game.
Trying to take evasive action, but then probably the game registered it as an illegal overtake, so made him give it back.
So the battle for the lead is now continuing. It's the top 5, and look at Lutt down in 6th place. It's 3.4 seconds away. Plakey's had a poor pit stop. He's down 2 positions from where that battle was, and now he's outside with Nico. So there's another group forming for 6th and 7th. They're on their own, and then there's that group for the final point scoring positions. At the moment, as I think Agonize now has made he's gone. He's into the wall. The other Red Bull driver has gone. He's still in the race, but he's not what he would have wanted at all.
No, it's a disastrous race for
Square
Red
into
Bull
the lead.
so far. Oh, Square's got the move done, and that's what Sparks didn't do earlier on. Is Sparks going to take advantage of this and make the move on Shadow? No, he does not. And as we've seen, it's now for Romeo. Sparks following very closely Shadow, but this time it's not 1-2. It's 2nd and 3rd at the Square, just for good measure, takes the fastest lap of the race. So now let's see if he can effectively run away with it.
Well, Square doing a phenomenal job, doing something that Sparks couldn't, as we come back just in time for the overtake. But Shadow, maybe Shadow's struggling a little bit. Maybe that's, having Sparks there was a buffer, defensive buffer. Maybe these two were just happy with a 1-2, get the points on the board, catch Ronha. But now it's going a little bit the other way. Square has other ideas. He's not pulling away from Shadow, but it's not as close as it was.
Yeah, definitely at the moment, and I love that Joseph in the chat saying may have jinxed him for the luck crash. So that 10th, it's still on a perfectly timed safety car. Luck could still get the win. He won't, but he can still can. Oh, Square's made a bit of a mistake there. Massive twitch going through cops. Maybe just trying to take a little bit too much speed. He'll have picked up a warning for that. I think he'll have picked up another warning there. I'm gonna quickly check that. That definitely looked like two. Oh no, he only picked up 1. Okay, got very lucky. I'm curious for which one because they both looked quite clear. But the game can be a little bit like that sometimes. So yes, for the moment, Square is actually being able to pull out a little bit of a gap. But what was interesting, we haven't seen this at any point in the race. The Alfa Romeos, they just weren't. Oh, Lutt's in the wall again. Sorry about that. Yeah, he's not going first. But yeah. That's something we haven't seen at any point in this race is the Alfa Romeos struggling with ERS, and at the moment that's what they're lacking. And on this lap, Square, he's used all of the ERS that was available to him in a lap. It's not often you actually see that in a race, driving using all of their allocated energy in one lap.
He wanted to make the most of it, and unfortunately, I think that little bit of a mistake through cops has cost him. But Jonas is not giving up the ghost. I think he could actually be the quickest driver here. Is Shadow trying to heat up his tyres or tell Jonas to back off a bit? I'm not 100% sure which one's which.
Nico and Raceway having a brilliant race side by side here as well. They're going side by side still. That's 2 or 3 corners in a row by the looks of it. And now Raceway, yeah, he has got the position on Nico. So he is ahead, the Williams ahead of the Aston Martin. But let's look back out front. Oh, for a moment then, the gap from first to second to third, and third to fourth was 0.250. That was quite cool. Yeah, it just shows how evenly matched they are at the moment. I think Square's lead it's not got long left for this world, because it does look like now Shadow's got a little bit more ERS. Oh, this is gonna be very easy by the looks of it. Shadow pulling out to the left hand side. He's gonna be forced around the outside, but actually no, he's not. Sparks is gonna try and go around the outside instead. Oh, that was so nearly contact. I think in real life Square might have lost an end plate there, and we could have been seeing a little bit of puncture for Shadow as well, and there's contact. Sparks, actually, I'm not sure what happened there. I think Jonas hit Sparks and Square. That was little bit of concertina effect, I think, slightly affecting the drivers there. But nonetheless, Shadow has retaken the race lead, and Square is going to be putting the pressure back on. This is going to be a chaotic end to the race. They're all going to be going at it.
Lap 20 of 26, sorry. And Jonas all over the back of Sparks. Alfie hasn't really had a chance to have a sniff at Jonas yet, but just looking at from Jonas's point of view, this race is phenomenal so far. Shadow retaking the lead from Square, but it looked like we're going to go 3 wide heading into Stowe, and Square now trying to get back at it, but Sparks is not really letting him. These Alphas coming back to life, it seems.
Yeah, at the moment, Square, it's basically a case of whoever's got the slipstream, whoever's got the DRS, you maybe need a lap or two to just recharge your ERS a little bit. But it does seem that once you're in that position, you're going to be able to get the move done just about. So yeah, this could be really interesting. But Sparks is right on the back of Square here. Could he be getting just a little bit too close as we go through Chapel to actually get the move done? I don't think his line was compromised too much, so he could be in half a chance here. However, he's only got about 3% ERS. Square, massive up speed at the moment on Shadow. It doesn't look like Shadow's got ERS to play with at all, and he can't get the move done. Square not close enough, and this is just going to be a chaotic end to the race. Oh, Sparks going round the outside. That was so optimistic, and I'm not quite sure how he's got that done, but they're 3 wide going through Club Corner. Wow, and that is Jonas
is gone.
Yes, it is, yeah. Wow.
So 3 wide going through Club is
not going to work.
Is not what you want.
No, there's a reason we don't see much of that in racing. Yeah, and there's more contact again with Square and Sparks. I think it's all just got a little... Oh, and actually Square's round. That's odd.
That is very odd. It didn't look like he had much contact there for him to go around. But Sparks into P2 then. But now Alfie is his contender. And 2 drivers have gone in the space of 1 sector for Sparks and Shadow and Alfie. And Sparks now has that little bit of a lead.
Yeah, at the moment, Sparks. That was such a good move from Sparks. That was an absolutely brilliant move. Around the outside, under braking, using the curb, space that drivers don't tend to use a lot, especially if you're just driving at this stage in the race. That was probably one of the moves of the season. Unfortunately, it ended in disaster because Jonas, seeing a very good opportunity to get 2 cars, and I think it would have been, had, debatably, you could say Square should have re-entered the track in a safer way and left a little bit more room, but he had no way of knowing that Jonas was on the inside as well, and yeah, into a corner that you'd struggle to take 2 abreast.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's kind of lost a little bit of the sting that we had here, or it's taken the sting out of the battle, but Alfie is going to try and come at Sparks now. It's a 1.5 second gap between the 2 Alphas at the top, and I wonder if Shadow will help his team out, or whether he'll just try and drive off into the distance. Square, down into 5th, so he hasn't lost horrendously. He's still within a chance of some good points, but Agonized then, great race for him, up into P4.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job. He's benefited from all of that so well. Unfortunately, it does look like he's going to actually lose a couple of these places, definitely to Logic and Raceway, and maybe Jonas as well on penalties. And yeah, Jonas getting past his teammate. I think Nico very politely letting him pass there by the looks of it, or just choosing not to fight.
So let's go.
So give Jonas P5 or so is on the table, I think.
We'll have to wait and see. Let's go on board with Logic and Raceway because they're quite close to Square. It's all starting to come back together from Agonized. He might, like you said though, he might lose a couple of positions, so it's going to be interesting to see. And yeah, I'm not really sure what happened at Village there between Square and Sparks. That was a bit of an odd one, as Alfie has got past Sparks. Alfie is now into P2.
Yeah. Yeah. Sparks are... yeah, I'm not quite sure how that's happened. I don't know if that was a mistake, but it did seem like Sparks was in quite a safe P2 as well at that. Alfie does have a 3-second penalty, so I guess let's see if he can extend that gap. It's going to be a real hard ask, but I mean, you never know if Sparks is starting to struggle just a little bit. We'll have to see. Alfie, of course, being on older soft tyres as well, so it's quite 2-lap older soft tyres for that matter. So I think Sparks will get the move back. These two might just be swapping position till the end of the race now, and Sparks should pick up that P2 as long as he doesn't pick up a warning or penalty. So.
Yeah, it's all about a bit of conservation maybe for Sparks now. Just don't get himself into trouble. Don't get himself any penalties to stop him from claiming that P2. Shadow having a phenomenal race now, starting to pull away 2.3 seconds. Not led all the race, not led every lap, but done a fantastic job nonetheless. And when he was challenged and when he was put on the back foot, he produced and got the lead back.
Yeah, it's a great job. Alfie just weaving down the straight. I think he may have been trying to break that slipstream just a little bit, but it doesn't quite work. Sparks does get the move round the outside at Stowe under braking. Not too bad at all, using the extra life in his tyres to full effect. And yeah, I think Alfie will just sit here at this point. He should be fairly happy. Obviously, you'd like P2 on track, but he's going to pick up P3 come the end of the race. He's got a good gap to Agonized. Agonized are square, both with 8-second time penalties, so they're going to drop fairly far down the order. I'd say probably around P8 or so by the end of the race.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Square got a penalty for that spin, though, so he might, that 5 seconds. So he might try and get that removed. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the stewards are down to that.
Move on Agonized, maybe. So I just saw they're only separated by 3/10 for a moment there. And I think this should be a fairly simple move. Square, he's got the straight line speed. He's going to pull to the inside, is he? No, he's not. I think he's thinking potentially down the hanger straight is going to be a bit more of a calm and potentially easier move than going into Luffield, then through the exit and then also at Woodcut as well. So yeah, and you're definitely not going to get the move done into Cops as much as we'd like to see it. I don't think anyone has really given it a go today. Cars are just a little bit too wide, speed's just a little bit too immense for that.
Yeah, let's see what Logic to do. Logic could still throw a spanner in the works as they come through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And
yeah,
Square, well, no, Agonized makes a real big hash of that coming out of Chapel, and the overspeed for Square surely is going to give him the lead, well, not the lead, sorry, P4. Getting overexcited for Square there. It's a switchback on the cards for Agonized. So he's trying to get back at the Alpha.
Not quite. Yeah, Logic thought about making that free wide, but that gap closed very swiftly as Agonized and Square move towards each other under braking, and Square just round the outside now should get the move. And now Logic, it's his turn. He doesn't need to overtake these guys because Square has a legitimate 3-second penalty and Agonized has, as far as I'm aware, at least a legitimate 3-second penalty as well, plus a 5. So we'll have to see. Logic doesn't need to fight this, but you know, we've seen all the time drivers want to. They want that on-track position, and I'm so surprised that this race has ended with an Alpha 1-2. First half of the race, you're thinking, oh yes, a shoe-in, it's going to happen, and then you start to think, oh hello, and then the pit stops come along. Sparks, you know, falling back a little bit with the undercuts, but it has just worked so well for them in the latter stage of this race with the contact and everything that's gone down, and especially with Ronha retiring. It's not a bad day at the office for both of them, actually, because they're both going to close in quite a bit in the championship.
Yeah, incredible amounts in the end. I think it will be 4 points between Shadow and Ronha at the end of all this. Logic picks up a 3-second time penalty. So the top, well, it could all change. We'll have to wait and see. So Logic has to make the move. Agonized is... Oh, Logic's made a mistake and had to cut Chapel, and I wonder how much that's going to affect him. Here comes Agonized, though, on Square. Has he made the move stick? And Logic's coming into this as well. Can Square keep a hold of it? He can for now. And there's a little bit of contact between the two of them. A little bit squirmy from Square. But they've kept the positions at the moment. And Square just holding on at the moment. Is anything happening behind? I don't think Trivion is going to catch Luca out just yet.
No, I don't think so. And he's got 1 second more penalties as well, which of course come the end will add up. So if he does get past, he has got to pull a second in the last lap as well, which is fairly difficult. It may just be a second, but again, that is a very hard second to get. Oh, Logic is so loose for all the corners at the moment. He is pushing right on the edge of what that car will allow. And at times it is saying, you're joking, right? I'm not going to do that. And slightly making his life just a little bit harder. But yeah, I think at the moment, penalties are going to play a part, obviously, in this finishing order, but I think there's definitely a couple that are up to be removed. So we'll have to see how this ends up. For the moment, Raceway's looking like he's going to go up into P4. So that's not a bad day at all for the Williams driver, who spent most of the race in, I mean, from the stream's point of view, a bit of obscurity. But actually, Jonas is rather back. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Alfie dispatches Sparks to take P2 on track, but it's going to drop back down as well. Oh, God. Is that going to hold? Are they going to hold? And there's a little bit of contact there between them, and they nearly spin themselves out. And I think Agonize is going to lose a place to Logic on this as well. Agonize is going to fight back across the line, but he will finish it there. And is that a disqualification?
Yeah, it was. It was disqualification for Connor, and yeah, it was Connor disqualification. I think for not using the tyres, which is an odd one. I don't know if that's a glitch. I'll quickly check on his drive. Yeah, he only used the mediums all race, so he got disqualified. Yeah.
Interesting strategy from Connor. It's not what you expect.
No.
So, it's not how you get points. But I'm sure he knows that. Driver of the day for you off after this incredible race.
Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. And you know what? I don't think in particular I'm going to give it to either of the Alphas. Of course, they both drove really good races to end up with P1 and P2, but the pace wasn't explosive. It was just enough. I'd like to say I don't really know with this race. There were so many good performances. Raceway's done really well to end up at P5, but just got passed by Jonas at the end, and I don't know whether that just takes a little bit away. It's a real hard one today. Realistically, I want to give it to the top 5 when they were all racing. But of course, that going a little bit wrong. I'd say maybe Jonas, because I don't think he did too much wrong. He had great pace in the race. It seemed at times he could have been very much on for a win if he could just get the moves done. He seemed to have the pace. And then, of course, getting caught out, going for not even an opportunistic move. He was effectively just taking the racing line. And with another car rejoining, it ended in disaster for himself. So I'm going to say Jonas probably, because the actual result probably doesn't quite reflect what he deserved in that race.
I'm gonna go Raceway. I'm gonna follow with Raceway just because 15th to 5th is a pretty awesome response from him. But it's Shadow that takes victory, and his teammate Sparks locking out the front row as they did in qualifying. Alfie finished 3rd then, finishing off the podium there, and Jonas in 4th place with Raceway in 5th, Logic in 6th, Plakey in 7th and Square in 8th, Agonised in 9th, and Wilson finishing out the point scoring positions in 10th place. Matthew Rees in 11th, Nico in 12th, Luca in 13th, with Tribion in 14th, and Bartak in 15th. We had DNFs to Loot, Darkkiller, Critch and Ronhar, and a disqualification for WR Connor, which is very rare to see indeed. So a great race nonetheless. We will see if anyone will jump into the podium question for the interviews. We'll wait and see anything. But just give us, from your point of view, give us a little bit of a rundown of how you thought that race went.
I'd say for most part, absolutely chaotic. Of course, the DRS trains, like we thought before the race, did end up playing a massive part in the outcome and the actual running during the race. We saw that, I think one of the most pivotal moments was that top 5 just being able to split away from Lut and Placky while they were racing each other. And that just effectively made it, in their minds, they're thinking, oh, there's less to lose now. We've got a good gap. And I think maybe led them to take a couple more risks, which of course led to the dramatics and the fireworks that we saw. I think there was a time when the top 5 was separated by less than 2 seconds, I'm fairly sure. So, if that doesn't sum up this race, it's been absolutely chaotic, so close and too close to call at any point. It took until, of course, the last couple of laps when it became a little bit more clear what the outcome would be. But, some absolutely brilliant performances out there, and I'd say that's probably the first race this season where we've had so many drivers up for contention in the win. So, hopefully a little bit more of that in the last couple of races, and it could get a little bit spicy. And hopefully we'll get another one of those shock winners. But let's not have 2 in a row. Let's return a little bit more to normality.
I think you said that the top 5 were separated by 2 seconds. I think at one point they might have even been separated by a singular second. It was an absolute crazy race, and we will just wait and see if anyone will join. But it seems like a no-go at the moment. But we will give them a couple of minutes to see if they will pop in. But overall, an incredible race here in WOR for the Silverstone Grand Prix in Tier 1 racing. And we've seen a lot of things. We didn't see a safety car. That's something we both thought we might see, but it didn't happen. You kind of shocked by that?
Yeah, a fair bit. Yeah, I guess so. Because it does seem it could. I don't really know. Really, it's been quite explosive as it's gone on. I don't think there's much left that can shock me at this point for the season. So, yeah, I think looking forward. Hopefully a little bit less.
Well, we haven't got anyone jumped into the waiting room, so I don't want to be talking absolute nonsense for a little while. So we are going to close off there. We've got some more action throughout the week. Please keep on our Twitter to find out all the action. But for now, from myself and Beacon, we'll catch you next week.
Good night.